Thursday with more showers pushing in. Highs only near 50 with a few lingering showers for Friday as well. Celebrate Christmas and the New Year with All-Star Fireworks in Calhoun, Georgia with the best selection and lowest prices around. That's All-Star. Exit 312 off 575, 3 miles west toward Rome on Highway 53. And I'm Storm Gene Welsh, meteorologist Pastor 4.
Radio 92.7.
Come see the Chattanooga Zoo transformed into a magical winter wonderland. Visit the animals and watch them open their gifts. Have your picture taken with Santa Claus, play holiday games and make crafts, or just enjoy the beauty of the zoo covered in lights at their annual Holiday Lights event every Friday and Saturday night in December, right up until December 22nd. It's the most wonderful time of year at the Chattanooga Zoo. For ticket pricing and information, go to chatzoo.com.
Welcoming Warren and Griffin here to the advertising team at Nooga Radio. Right now, through the 31st of this month, they will match up to $1,000 any donation or contribution you make to the Fallen Five Memorial. Now that is being a good community citizen.
The station you hear everywhere. Nooga Radio 92.7.
Good morning, beautiful people here in the city of Chattanooga. It's your girl Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. Y'all know what it is. I'm taking it from the streets to City Hall to the mayor's office. Can't leave out the police department. They just won't quit. From the Valley Low to the mountaintop, give you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on here in the city of Chattanooga. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It is hump day. That means we've made it to the middle of another week. That means we're almost to the end of a week. It's almost Christmas. Ah, man. I'm ready for the holidays to be over, though, honestly. Tired of Christmas music. Tired of seeing the Grinch. But I'm always excited when I have an opportunity to get together with family and friends and have a little bit of holiday cheer. But there's been a lot going on here in the city of Chattanooga. And y'all know that my show is purposeful when I have the opportunity to speak on things that are going on in the city. And so a lot of times that's good, but sometimes that's bad, right? It's not always rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes it's pouring down rain and thunderstorms, right? In life. And so we have to give light to all of the things that are going on in not just the good things, right? And I'm always excited when I don't have to be in the studio by myself, when I don't have to just talk to you guys by myself, but I have the opportunity to share my platform with members in the community who have experienced things, gone through things. And I have a lovely guest who I'm super excited that's going to tell her story here. But before we get into that, y'all know what it is. Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. We're streaming live on YouTube as well as Facebook, Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. The call-in number is always the same, 800-8949. And before we get into the story, I definitely want to give my brothers and sisters, Miranda Cooper, Brandon Woodruff, Steve Bedford, DeJuan Harper, the young people who are down there right now at the county commission meeting that are demanding that Officer Kilpatrick with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department doesn't get to kick his feet up because he beat a man, and somehow because they took him off of walking the street, that's fine. It's not okay. That man must be fired. You hear what I said? He must be fired because nobody is above the law. And if I can't go out here and beat up a citizen without getting arrested, he can't do that either. As a matter of fact, I hold him to a higher standard because he has a badge, right? So he can't beat somebody who's handcuffed and kick them and put his knee in their chest and then get to kick his feet up on our dime. No, sir, no, ma'am. That's not how this works. He must be fired. And he must be held legally accountable, meaning he must be indicted on criminal charges. And we have to send a clear message to law enforcement that there is a line and that they must approach everyone with decency and respect, regardless of what they look like, what their language is, what their gender is, what their religion is, simply because they're God's child. And who's God's children? Each and every one of us that's living. Simply because you're God's child, you deserve decency and respect. And unless it's somebody that's intentionally trying to harm an officer, they should be treated with decency and respect. And we shouldn't have to petition or ask for that. It should just be given. Right. But I'm super excited that I have Miss Baker here, who unfortunately is just another individual who has dealt with our Chattanooga Police Department. And it has not been on the best terms. And one of the reasons why I continue to bring light to these stories is not just so we can talk about them, right? But so that we can get up as people. As I quoted from Fannie Lou Hamer yesterday, you can pray until you faint, but until you get up and you try to do something, God's not going to put it in your lap. And we got to give light to these stories. So first of all, we are educated and understand what's going on and that there is a problem. Number two, that we acknowledge that there is a problem. And then number three, that we as a community begin to hold our politicians, people in power, accountable for what is happening under their watch. And that they can't just show up to our communities and knock on doors and get our monies when they run. But when they get in these seats, they have a responsibility and an accountability to our community. And when we do come to them with these issues, they can't just offer us condolences. They have legislative and executive power, depending on what person we're talking about, to do something about what they see. And so without further ado, I just want to introduce Miss Baker. Tell the people good morning, Miss Baker.
Good morning, Chattanooga.
So just give the people a rundown of who you are and just tell them what happened to you at the hands of the Chattanooga Police Department.
Okay, my name again is Katrina Baker. I was previously a foster parent for an agency here in the city. This happened my story began in 2015, November the 5th to be exact, 2015. I was a foster parent of 5 children. 5, biological mother of 1. I had a situation where my daughter had got in touch with her biological family and had been kidnapped from a local high school here in the city. I was not notified by the school right away. Actually, I was in like a 9-hour training program with the agency at the time. And toward the end of the day, my mother kept, back to back calling me. So finally, I had to step out the class and, answer my phone. And I was told that a few of my daughter's friends from her high school had stopped by the house to say that she had been kidnapped.
And who was she kidnapped by?
Her biological mother, sister, and a grandparent.
And none of them had custody of her, correct?
Correct.
It was just you.
Me. Right.
All right.
So she told me that she was missing. She was, gone. And I was like, well, I haven't received a phone call from the school about this. So I told her, well, I'm toward the end of my class. I'm not gonna, leave. I'm just gonna deal with this when I get home. I said, maybe she'll show up between, now and then. But anyway, long story short, she did not. I finished my class. I went home, called the local police department, and an officer came out, took the statement, filed an attachment against her, all that stuff. Told me if she comes back, to call them back. So I said, well, what if she's aggressive or anything like that? He said, you do, what's necessary without hurting the child, of course, because she was 15 at the time, to detain her, keep her in the home. So a couple of days later, she did show back up. They had been calling me and harassing me and stating what they were going to do to me and all this type stuff. And I told them I wasn't worried about it. The police had been called and that they were out, looking for her. So like I said, a couple of days later, she showed back up. But she was a little, messed up. She wasn't the same child. I don't know what had transpired during that time, but we had I let her in nicely and I told her we'll speak in a minute. I went and talked to the other kids and told them, to stay in their rooms and stuff. Cause I knew I was going to call the, police to let them know that she's here. So I went in to speak with her and she just was not mannerable or anything. It was like she wasn't my child, the child I had raised her to be, So anyway, I had my mom call, police. Well, she jumped up and she ran in her room and she tried to, get a few things closed and stuff. I was like, oh, no, you can't leave. You got to wait on the police to arrive and stuff like that. So we had words and everything. And what I did was kind of stuck my foot at the tripper and, get her down and sat on top of her.
Keep her from leaving?
Yeah, to keep her from leaving. Sat on top of her and the police came in. There was two, as I remember. There was a male and a female officer that first arrived on the scene. Mm-hmm. Well, they come into my home. We're in her room in the middle of my house, in my home. We're on the floor. She starts this. I mean, she's a good actor. She needs to be in Hollywood for real. She scared me. She started this choking like thing to where, shaking. I thought she was having a seizure or something, So they was yelling at me and they had guns pointing, get up, get up. Well, I suffer with MS and I have sarcoidosis and fibromyalgia, along with a few other things. That's just the top three. So I said I couldn't move. Actually, she had me like this by my wrist. She had me so I couldn't move. So they had guns drawn. I was like, don't please. All I was worried about was being shot in the back because my back was toward them. We were they couldn't really see that she had me. We were slanted on the floor. I was like, don't shoot me. I was trying to tell them how to come around and see that I can't move or I'm not doing what you say do because she has me now restrained. Mm-hmm. So finally they came through though, but they kept hollering and I'm saying those big old guns were pointed at me and they came through and she was like, okay, the female put her gun up and she was telling my daughter to let me go so that I could get up off of her. Before I knew it, my house I had the police. I had at least, 15 or more police officers there, fire department, EMTs, CPS, DCS, everybody was there. I was up, she let me go. I got up. They took her in her room, pushed me into the living room. They interrogated her. They wouldn't let CPS in. They wouldn't let DCS in. They wouldn't let the agency that I worked for in the home. They were back in her room, full of police officers, living room to her room, interrogating her. And they were saying, you can't do that. An adult or somebody from the agency needed to be with her, but they would not allow that. And anyway, I had this one officer in the living room with me. My nerves, I already have MS, so I was just messed up, And I'm walking, I'm just trying to, I'm nervous. Down. I got guns pointed at me. I could have lost my life on this day, And he kept telling me to sit the H down and he was cussing and stuff. I mean, he was the only one that literally was just this one officer that was so nasty. And I was like, sir, what is wrong with you? Am I under arrest? You haven't charged me with anything. And you're telling me I just can't pace around my living room. He wanted me down. So I kept walking. At one point, he pushed me down on my couch. So I was like, okay, I'll get up again. I'll walk around. He'll yank me down in a chair. So the first time, that's cool. I'm going to give you that first time you put your hands on me because I've not done anything. You haven't said that I've done anything. The second time, I got a problem with it. So I started running my mouth. And I'm trying to explain that I'm a foster child. Y'all calm down. Things was getting, it was already out of hand. I had children in the home. And, of course, they're fearful because some of them, this is the way they've been taken out of their own home and put into the foster system.
So how many children did you have at the time?
Let's see. I had 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 5. 5. Yes.
Seeing all of this chaos, which
minus one, she was still at school, after school program.
So, and one of the things that, because my parents did foster care while me and my sister were still at home, children come from traumatic experiences, very traumatic experiences. We had one child whose mother would make all of him and his siblings steal and then make them have sex with one another. Like they come from some of the most, oh my goodness, some of the most atrocious situations that you would ever imagine. And so I can only imagine the trauma that they would endure. Number one, just seeing a bunch of police officers coming in with guns drawn. First of all, why is that always like a necessary thing? Like police officers have to come into a situation with, ready to shoot.
Right.
It's not like, so we're going to shoot everybody and then we're going to ask all the questions
later.
Like, I don't understand how that works.
Right.
It should be a situation where police show up. You're like, ooh, okay, everything's going to get better from here. Like they're going to ask questions. They're going to try to de-escalate the situation. Right. And one of the problems that we continue to see is that when police show up, the situation gets overly escalated.
Right.
Continue though.
That's what happened. Exactly. And that's what I kept trying to say. There's other kids in this home. I need to get to my babies because I knew they were freaking out. You know what I'm saying? I was like, can I go see, get my children? There's children in here, and he wouldn't allow, this one officer wouldn't allow me to do anything. So like I said, the second time he put his hands on me, I started running off at the mouth. So he started, cursing and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I said, I bet you, I was just as nice and calm. I said, I bet you that's the way you talk to your daughter and your wife. I said, but guess what? I'm not your daughter and I'm not your wife. So you cannot, without me being under arrest, in your custody, you should not be talking to me like this in my living room of my home. I need you to leave. I'm going to ask that you leave. He said, you know what? I think I will. And I'm going down to juvenile court and I'm going to take that attachment or whatever it was they had on her off. So this detective was there and he was working on her case from juvenile court. He said, you're not allowed to do that. He said, I'm going to do it. So he left. And I didn't have any other problems with the other officers. He left and he tried to do it, but oh boy, he couldn't. So when he comes back, he's even more angry at the fact that he couldn't do it, even though he had been told. I guess he thought he was above the law and he couldn't. So, if I made any moves or anything, he cursed. I was like, you know what? I ain't even gonna pay you no attention. I just kept on moving and walking and doing. I didn't, say anything to him. I just ignored him. And that made him even angry. And before you knew it, this man had grabbed me, threw me over my dining room table.
Hold up right there. So this grown man,
yes,
of a police officer, right, decides, knowing you hadn't committed any crime,
right,
that he was going to, first of all, he grabbed you. Now, the protocol, and again, we have to talk about this stuff. We have to talk about this because last night at the city council. This is why I tell people, you got to go to city council. You got to go to these meetings. Besides just seeing what's unfolding, you'll see what people are talking about. When you have a lady that came from Atlanta to come spend money in the city of Chattanooga, see family, and she ends up, just because she happened to be African American, she ends up being brutalized, ribs broken, hand damaged from the Chattanooga Police Department, and she doesn't even live here. We have a problem. And I think besides just the fact that we got to clean this situation up, because we're talking about how police are treating people who live here, is the fact of they can't distinguish between who lives here for the most part and who doesn't. You don't know if the average person who owns this house or who doesn't, who's visiting or who lives here. All you know is you're walking into a situation and you're talking to people. And if this stuff continues to circulate through our media, that our police department is corrupted and corruptible, who would be encouraged to come spend fiscal dollars and be a tourist here in a city where it's likely for them to run into a police officer that's going to brutalize them or disrespect them? What does that do for the tourism for the city of Chattanooga? Just asking, because we've made this city into a tourist city, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we've turned this city into where we want all these tourist dollars, we spent billions of dollars downtown. Well, if we have these gung-ho officers, and even though the other ones didn't do anything, the other problem that I have with all of these stories is it's always one or two officers that's doing this stuff. But it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 officers standing around watching it happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Martin Luther King said, it comes a time when silence is complicitness and betrayal, my dear people.
Yes.
So if you're watching, so it's a responsibility. There is a large responsibility on those good officers who are watching their partners do this stuff to then pull. If anybody going to do some pulling, it needs to be the detective pulling this gung-ho officer to the side and saying, you way out of line. And either you need to calm down, or I'm going to have to make a call to your to the lieutenant or the sergeant you report to. Huh?
Right.
I'm just saying.
Right.
Yes.
I'm just saying. But do continue. So he grabs you.
He grabs me like this from the back, snatches me up. I had on this jacket actually, and it was nice. A sundress and some sandals. He throws me over the table. He has my right arm, and he's twisting it until you couldn't see him the way he was leaning over me, but he kept twisting. I was screaming because he just kept twisting. And something said, I heard it pop. And my finger was broken. It started to swell up, but I had to have surgery. I had to have surgery on my elbow. I was messed up. Yeah, from that.
And what was the charges that they arrested you with?
Well, they finally, some other guy, I guess it was a superior or somebody, comes in and, I was going off. I was like, you broke my finger. You did it. I said, my arm is hurting. I started using some choice words. And this other guy came in and said, get her ass out of here now. I was like, okay. So they just threw me in a car. I still didn't know what my charges were. They just took me, handcuffed me, and threw me in the back of a police car. And like I said, it was a warm day. No, the car was running. No air was on. I have sarcoidosis of my lungs. I could not breathe. I started kicking and, because they walked off, threw me in there and walked off. I had family and friends all around. They was like, she needs to go to the hospital. She's sick, and they weren't listening to it. They were making my family and friends get away from the car. They refused to because they were like, no. If something happens to her in the back of this car, we're going to be here to witness it. So it took a long while before, I was like, get me out of here. I was kicking the windows because I really felt like I was suffocating. And finally, the police officer, the man that had put me in his car, he came and he opened the door and it was like, whew, I could breathe. Yeah. And they stood me outside and the EMT came and just smashed the tips of all 10 of my fingers and said, oh, she's fine. And the officer said, get back in the car. I said, what is that?
So you guys are going to have to stay tuned as we continue to cover this story because we have a lot going on in the city of Chattanooga. And y'all know what I do. We got to talk about it. Stay tuned for the second half of the segment.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
A 5-year-old child left alone on a special services bus Friday night for a reported 13 minutes. Reports say a required head count didn't happen. The child fell asleep on the bus and was left behind. The driver has since been suspended. Surveillance video shows the child figuring out how to open the doors to the bus before he got an adult to help him. A woman was hit by a car on Wilcox Boulevard. CPD officers and EMS workers rushed to stabilize the victim. She's since been hospitalized in serious condition. The driver of the car that hit her stayed on scene until police got there. And Hamilton County Schools winter break begins tomorrow. The break lasts until the 2nd of January. Also on break is road construction around the state of Tennessee. Temporary road closures will reopen throughout the volunteer state as construction workers get the week off. Some long-term closures may stay in place due to safety reasons. Val St. John for Nooga Radio. News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Hey folks, Jeff Stiles here, talk radio host and infamous technophobe. But I got to tell you, this Facebook Live that Nooga Radio does, it makes sense to me. It really does. Now, we're at 92.7 on the FM dial, but really where you need to go is NoogaRadio.com and just do the streaming audio, 8 to 10 a.m. The first hour is mostly just me just throwing commentary in on top of the news. The second hour is me frustrating and irritating you beyond all belief. NoogaRadio.com. Don't miss it. Every weekday.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, TradeBank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. This is your sandwich speaking. Yeah, your sandwich. And you know, you can't find me any place but the Mad Philly Sandwich Shop. Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, just off 153 on Shaliford Road. It's in the little plaza. Hey, check out these buns. Yeah, they're Amorosa. All the way from Philly. So bite me. You want a real Philly cheesesteak? Check out my meat. Throw some cheese on it and grilled onions. Oh, yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. Only at the Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, where you'll always get the real taste of a Philadelphia cheesesteak. Plus hoagies, burgers, sandwiches, salads, fresh cut fries, tater tots, and other stuff. Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, just off 153 on Shaliford Road, right across from Mountain View Service Center. It's in the little plaza. Hey, come on, we're waiting for you here. So just shut up and eat it.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Expect some high clouds but dry weather out there for your afternoon. Not bad. Highs 55 to 57. Tonight, clouds thickening. Some showers moving in after midnight. Lows lower to middle 40s. Wet and cool for Thursday with more showers pushing in. Highs only near 50 with a few lingering showers for Friday as well. Celebrate Christmas and the New Year with All-Star Fireworks in Calhoun, Georgia, with the best selection and lowest prices around. That's All-Star. Exit 312 off 575, 3 miles west toward Rome on Highway 53. And I'm Storm Team 12, she's meteorologist Patrick Ford.
The radio 92.7.
It's that familiar voice, the hottest show on the radio, period. It's your girl Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. Y'all know what it is. So much going on in the city. And you know what? I know I'm doing my job because I got so many haters. I got people from the mayor's office stalking my page. I got people from who not even my friends on Facebook, like stalking my social media. People who just wait for me to make a post so they can hate. And why? When I just want to see people treated with decency and respect. I just want to see the tax dollars that we pay every single year. And it's not cheap to live in the city of Chattanooga anymore. All the tax dollars, I want to see that come back to our neighborhood. I want to see people who come to this city to enjoy themselves, that they enjoy themselves. And I want the people who live here to enjoy this city, right? This city Chattanooga has so much potential. And the people in this city, I know so many talented, smart, hustling individuals from this city. We got to clean up. We got to clean up our streets, folks. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to the people. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. You're on here.
How are you, Marie?
I'm doing all right.
Okay. Well, same here. This is Johnny. I just want to call in and comment the young lady who was talking about the problem she had with her daughter and the police is coming into her house.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make this statement that I am not a degreed social worker, but through common sense and life experiences. When they came in and they had their guns drawn, she should have let them know that her daughter was the one that had her. But when they are around you, you are not supposed to say a thing unless they ask you, because of the mentality of what's going on in this city. Now, the reason she kept walking around and she claims that the officer, white, I'm sure she's telling the truth, pushed her down and then she was flipped over some table. It was because she didn't stay quiet. It's not that you're supposed to be afraid.
Hold on, because I got to disagree with you. Because what she stated before that, and it's a very imperative that we listen, not to respond, but we listen to understand, was that she was first pushed down once and she didn't say anything. Now, when she got pushed down the second time, and this is the thing that we got to understand, people can only take so much. They can only take so much. And I think you can already go from 0 to 100 as far as emotions is concerned. The moment people are running in your household like you robbed a bank with rifles and handguns pointing them at you and your children. And so I respect people's opinion. I respect people's opinion, but we got to be careful because it's easy to say, well, you should have done this and you should have done that. And to a certain extent, I would agree that we do have to be careful about what we say, not because of disrespect, but only because I understand from law enforcement what you say can and will be used against you. And I tell people, I preach people that from a legal perspective, because I don't want what they say to be used against them. But, and there is a very large but, I understand that I'm not going to have anybody push me but once. Is that fair? You think that's fair?
Yes.
I'm not going to have anybody push me but once.
An assault is an assault.
Assault is assault. Good morning. Talk to the people.
Okay, this is Johnny. I was calling to finish what I was saying. When he pushed her down, she said that she went off and she went to express her opinion about the way she was being treated. And what I wanted to ask, and maybe you can ask at the city council when I can't go because both me and my son cannot leave our house because our house has been invaded, and you will hear about it. But to find out, does these officers ever be monitored for drug addiction? Are they monitored for their activity to whether they are not in some type of gang association?
Well, they are in an organization that's called the Fraternal Order of Police. So they're automatically, once you're behind that thin blue line, you're brought into what is a brotherhood or a secret organization.
Exactly.
So that's a easily answered question. The second question that you had was, are they monitored? Of course, that's called internal affairs, right? The same internal affairs faction that knew Officer Desmond Logan was raping women allegedly as early as 2015. And it wasn't until 4 women stepped forward and we found out a week and a half ago to 2 weeks that this man also allegedly raped a woman at UTC. So the internal affairs also knows officers. Now, I can do this off the top of my head all day long. Officers like Michael Wanger, who beat Chris Tatum and Adam Tate, choked them. And the only thing he had to do was pay $26,000 to these guys who barely survived getting brutalized by him and several officers. He never lost his job. He lied on the stand. And not only that, he was promoted to a sergeant.
Wow.
And then set up another young man by the name of Angele Moore and falsely arrested him and accused him and tampered with evidence and perjured on the stand. And the internal affairs knows this, and he's still employed.
Wow.
So, yes, there are people watching. The question becomes, do we have a mayor with a spine and a backbone that wants to clean up the police department?
No.
And do we have a chief of police with integrity that wants to clean up the police department?
No.
And with the exception of, we have plenty of officers that resign, still have the ability to collect pension and go be a police officer somewhere else. That's not cleaning up the department. Firing these folks and holding them criminally accountable for crimes such as perjury, of which the average citizen would go to jail for. Come on. That's cleaning up the Chattanooga Police Department to me. Good morning. Talk to the people.
Hey, you know what? That lady, Miss Johnny, said something about monitoring.
So hold up, sir.
Actually, been good. It seems like it might be
Sir, hold up.
Going on because they doing like it's okay for them to do it. That's all I got to say.
Sir, so I didn't understand a word you just said because it sounds like you're talking with the window down.
I was just stating that Miss Johnny was saying that You know what? They need to have a whole force drug testing, because the stunts that they pulling on, the things that they're doing, it's just outrageous. And that's all I want to say.
Well, once we do that, what's going to be the next step? Are we going to fire them and prevent them from being a police officer somewhere else? And then are we going to criminally charge them? Perfect example before I let Ms. Baker get back into her story. Officer Craig Joel and Officer Trumbo, who were drinking on the job, crashed a police car, a patrol car. Did they get fired and criminally charged for DUI? No, they did not. Wow. They got to resign.
Really?
When I tell people I can do this all day, wow, I've covered these stories so much. I've researched this information so much. I can do this corruption all day long. All day long. I can give you names, dates, time periods. Come on now. Y'all don't spar with me. You're not gonna win. But I'm just saying, once we do that, so if we find out that we already know that officers are drinking on the job. Yeah. And if the leadership in the city is not firing them doing that, knowing that these same officers have probably locked up other people for DUI, then what does it mean that we've already tested them and we found out that we know that they have alcoholism or they have drug problems and we're not doing anything about that? Back to Miss Baker. So they twisted you up, broke your finger, you had to have surgery, stuffed you in a hot car. Right. And you have multiple sclerosis.
Yeah. Sarcoidosis, fibromyalgia. I got a lot of problems medically. Yeah.
And all you want to do is just take kids out the system and raise them and give them an opportunity and a chance at life.
Right.
That they would obviously wouldn't have.
Right.
And here's the thing, like being a young adult who had parents who raised children who were part of the system. Like, there's not enough people who are doing that job already.
Correct.
There are so many children in the system who remain in the system until they're adults, especially the older they are.
Yes.
Right? Because nobody wants to take on that responsibility. And so I commend anybody who wants to raise somebody else's children. All right? I commend you. My hat's off to you because it's a job. And to do 5, my grandmother had 6 children. To do 5, like, you get the hats off, my shoes off. Like,
I loved it. I loved
you
it.
get mad respect from me trying to raise 5 children and give them an opportunity to see a different life other than the situations that they come from.
Right.
Right. And so when you were arrested, what were you charged with from this officer?
Yes. To answer that question, they trumped the charges to aggravated child abuse. Aggravated child abuse.
Aggravated child abuse.
And I was told the only reason why I was charged was was because of what I said to the officer.
Not because there was
any evidence of what I did to my child. Nothing. Just because of his confrontation.
And so what did that do as far as what happened to your children?
My children were all taken away from me.
Each and every one of them?
Each and every one of them.
How long have you had those kids?
I had them at the time for about 6 years.
6 years. Now, let's do some simple math, folks. Now, you know that a small baby knows its mother's voice. A small baby can smell its mother, it just knows when its mother is too far away. What does it do? Start crying. Can you imagine 6 years spending where somebody has loved on you, cooked for you, cleaned for you, helped you in school, took you to school, picked you up from school, supported you in any extracurricular activities? Like, what are some things that you did with your children?
I had a basketball player, a track, football. They did cheerleading. I was at plays. We did everything together, from eating, breakfast, dinner. I was at the school volunteering before then. Even after then, I didn't stop because those were my kids. But the thing was, my mother kind of stepped in with the ones that I had adopted, but my foster kids, I lost them and they had to go to other places.
So what was the process of after getting out of jail, realizing that your kids are taken from you, your life is in shambles? What were the next steps that you took to try to get your life back on track? And did you fight to get your children back, and what did that look like?
After being released from jail, I went to the hospital. Of course, I didn't get treatment in jail or anything. Even though I put in for it, I couldn't get treatment. I went to court the first hearing and was appointed a lawyer. After which, the process started. I did whatever was necessary. I couldn't be with my mother because my mother had my adoptive kids, so I had nowhere to go. I slept on the streets. I slept at friends' houses on couches. I did whatever I had to do. I slept in my truck, whatever I needed to do to, I lost my housing until, the trial and stuff was over. It was hard.
How long was the trial? How long did it take to get the trial? Because I think people need to understand when we talk about false arrests, when we talk about these things where police officers run in and do stuff, it doesn't get resolved the next day. I think people need to understand what it takes for you to get your life back together once these things have happened to you. How long did it take before you got the trial? And how long did the trial last?
My first court date. Oh, Lord, I just got out of that stuff this year. So 3 years, it took that long for me and I still haven't cleared my name as far as DCS in Nashville and stuff of that. All charges were dropped against me due to no evidence of anything being done.
Let's pause because that's very important. That's very important. So all the charges were dropped against you, but you still. So here's the thing that also people don't understand in particular, because you were a foster parent, is that not only do you have to answer to your regular court system, you got to go through a judicial court.
Right.
Which is two separate battles.
Right.
I'm sure two separate lawyers.
Right.
All of the charges were dropped against you in your original court case, but you still got to go through judicial services to try to get your children.
Right.
And have you been able to do that?
They did. They finally released all of my children back to me. And
it only took 3 years.
Only 3 years. That's a long time.
I'm just saying that for the benefit of the listener.
For nothing. I mean,
3 years for absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
And your children spent 3 years without their mother's support, consistency, love, care, acknowledgement.
Yeah. 3 years.
How does that make you feel being able to say that? And why do you think it's important for people to understand the severity of this situation and why we have to start addressing how law enforcement treats people?
First of all, I mean, I would have never thought. At the time, I was 50.
Have you ever been arrested?
No.
So never been arrested? Because, people always try to dig through people's past.
No.
You had never been in trouble.
Law-abiding citizen.
Which, again, I say is the majority of people in the world. We're law-abiding. Y'all need to stop believing in criminality. Everybody's not a criminal.
Right.
But continue.
I would have never thought. I mean, I kept saying, this is a dream. This is a dream. This is a bad nightmare. You know what I'm saying? I just did not believe this was happening to me at the age of 50. And I mean, I'm the type, kids in the neighborhood can come and join in. I taught my kids, they knew nothing about hopscotch and, 1, 2, 3, 4 red light. And I mean, we were always in the street. Even though I'm disabled. I am a disabled citizen. I did what I could with my kids. I mean, I even had a lady come by and say, you know what, somebody needs to be out here in the community talking about this because you don't see parents out here playing with their kids like you do. And I know you're ill. She said, where's 3, 9, and 12 on this? And I told her, thank you, but you won't see that happening, and then this happens. They just could not believe it. But it made me feel so bad because I even was there, if I can say, at the time when one of our state representatives' child, I risked my life to help her child. She got gunned down by her husband. I was there. I risked my life. I called the police. I followed this guy. He snatched that baby. I followed him and told them where he was, the whole 9 yards. I do stuff like that. When some guys crashed down in East Chattanooga years ago on motorcycles, some of them were killed. We called the police. I was there on that. Stayed with those guys. You know, they were dead though. But still, stuff like that. I'm not a criminal. I love helping people. That's all I know to do is help people, you know. And for this to happen to me, I mean, it tore my life apart. I mean, to go to jail, I would have rather committed suicide first. Because their plan in jail even was to kill me. That's the plan. I was not, so I could have been dead and gone, sleeping in my grave right today instead of here. But God saw fit that I get out of there. I mean, I had to fight. I had to run in jail. I ran. I'm not going to lie. I had to get out of there because I was told by one of the inmates that the plan was first to gang rape me. And then secondly, they were going to beat me to death. So, you know, I had to get in a med line and wait and run out the door to let them know what's about to happen to me. And I had to get thrown in a hole, you know, state to get away from the general population, you know. It was awful. I have never, ever experienced anything such as this. And I don't want to ever. If the police come my way, I'll die first. I mean, no lie. I can't do it.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here. The only place where you're going to continue to hear the voice of the people. It's not about me. It's not even just about the individuals, because this is part of a larger scheme, a larger situation that we're dealing with here. And again, this is not to bash any good officers, but I want to give the good officers a charge. And that is when you see your partners, even if they're not your partner, if you see another officer on the scenes of these situations and then you see it escalating, somebody's got to be the big person. It don't matter if you're a sergeant, lieutenant, or whatever. Somebody's got to be the big person to de-escalate a situation. Go ahead, caller. You got 30 seconds to talk to the people.
Oh, yeah. The content of character looks like a big deal that we're having a problem with here, Marie, and that covers it pretty much. Doesn't matter what color. Color has nothing to do with content of character. Great man stated that, and there are situations, these people that threaten that poor lady to rape her and that sort of thing. It kind of sums that up. We have a lack of content of character that is going throughout this whole country.
That's right. You've heard it here. Marie Mott on the Marie Mott Show. If no one has taken the time today to tell you that they love you, I love you. And guess what? It's absolutely nothing you can do about that.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
A 5-year-old child left alone on a special services bus Friday night for a reported 13 minutes. Reports say a required head count didn't happen. The child fell asleep on the bus and was left behind. The driver has since been suspended. Surveillance video shows the child figuring out how to open the doors to the bus before he got an adult to help him. A woman was hit by a car on Wilcox Boulevard. CPD officers and EMS workers rushed to stabilize the victim.